That
It
is a
literally is
bonehead
a
move,
bonehead move.
right?
It screws up whatever was going to happen in the tower. Because Varen cannot be a substitute for Min, and she's the only character currently in position to do the Min job when the revolt happens, and she's not equipped to do that.
Yep.
Um, Even if she is covert black, which is not at all clear to me.
Who?
Um,
Who?
the
Elida?
Varen,
Oh,
Varen,
Varen. They definitely alluded to it with that one scene that we saw in the best episode, episode 4.
you mean Naomi? When Naomi calms her and Adelaus, and
Well,
then scrambles Adelaus's brain? That scene?
so which one was? So yeah, no, when they find the dagger, the person dead, and then Varen just shows up all of a sudden, and then Nynaeve says Varen.
Never asked. Yeah, and beautifully, that's straight from the book. That is
Right.
literally a scene from the book.
So that
But
was
they
cool.
dropped those like member berries, and so they didn't
Which
profit from.
episode? Which one was that? Was that 4? That was 4, right? No, that was 3. Was it 3?
That was three. That was three. It's a good scene, but it's dropped in, and they don't profit from it, and it doesn't affect Varen's actions, and it doesn't affect the girl's actions either. It's
Right.
just a well, let's I guess it's a steer clear here. You hear, like in where that they're going to now do their researches and try and not have involve Varen as much as they can, because now they don't trust her either, like they were ever supposed to. But
Right. And here
um,
we're talking about this part right here in the episode 3,
yeah,
and there's the dead person right there,
uh-huh.
and then right. So then we get you know a little bit
Yeah,
further,
Varen just pops around the corner, and
and then there's Varen all of a sudden, like, oh, and then she says, hey, I didn't say anything about that. She didn't say anything about that, and they did set it up really good there as far as indicating that she might be a suspect.
they left the door open. There is um, uh, she is not pursuing the task that she would do if she was more canonical, which is
So
she's
the
supposed to
thing,
be out. Remember, she's supposed to be out finding the rest of the blacks. That's
but
her big
they did
job.
button that up, and they did have Suen make her dogs. That was like legit.
Sure,
You're
but I'm
gonna
talking
be my
about Vera.
dogs, my hounds or whatever,
Right?
to go
Yeah.
find out all these people. So they're on that trek to try to
Yeah.
do that. Is correct. They put that correctly in line. Uh,
And they actually very creatively got him there by having him go through those papers and have her go, oh, yeah, they tied back in the sun. They went back to his room and found the symbol,
mm-hmm.
and that led them to Tanchico. And it was a very clever way to do a little detective work. Worked
And
very
that's
well for
great.
them.
They should be going to
That worked
Tanchico,
very
but
well.
Min and
Sure.
Matt should not be going to Tanchico.
No. Matt is supposed to be in the waist. He was supposed to go to Ruidian.
He's supposed to be there with them.
Right, I know. They couldn't figure out what to do with him because they don't want to do the twisted doorway because they don't. I think they believe that they cannot afford to try and simulate the Aelfin and the Eelfin. It's a
Do you think
total
they
budget
completely
problem with that.
eliminated them too? Because why then? Because Moraine will never go there,
Right,
and Tom will never ever save her.
right. So
Spoiler
there's no
alert.
need for the Tower of Genjay. There's no, and also
And
that means that this situation. Remember, in episode 5, she
yeah,
reveals to Lan that I got to die, and that this is final. I'm thinking it means Rosamund Pike's leaving the series after next season. She's filming her last scenes right now because,
well, she's supposed to die.
but she's supposed to come back.
I know, but maybe we'll still save her later. But she's definitely buttoning it up with that. But here's the thing: is so dumb about it. They should have already ended it. There shouldn't be any explanation for between them as far as their relationship and everything. It seals it off as being totally against the book idea and a completely reimagining of who Moraine is
That's been
by
all along.
I know, but they really sealed the deal with that last little encounter with Swan Sanche when which of course they make Egwene way too adept at dream walking at this point. She's too adept already to be able to focus her, be able to go directly to Swan Sanche's dream and like take her there and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we've been
She's
spared a lot of learning there, haven't we?
Oh my goodness! I mean, we'll talk about a gap in like all of a sudden she's like this. She can like navigate herself around and control what she's wearing and everything, and look at all these places and just be able to choose what she wants to see.
You know, it's another thing. They had her do this um, favor for Moiraine without telling Bear or Mylane. So she has gone into Tel'aran'rhiod or into the dream world without her permission, and so they're in the canonically that's correct, but in the nature of the movie, there was no reason for her not to at least ask Bear and Mylane's permission to do this for Moiraine, and that would have been actually that would have been a series of scenes because there would be a whole thing going on between the four women, which would have been human. It would have been narrative, and it would have also it did. I didn't need Egwene to be disobedient, so disobedient as she was in the books about going into Tel'aran'rhiod. That
Mm.
seemed that didn't work for me
Well, and
ultimately.
here's another. So here's some things that are coming up in my head, and let's just like back up a little bit. We haven't made a video. We're in here 5 episodes in, and we haven't made a what is this
This
segment.
is
So we're
true.
kind of catching up. We weren't super impressed with the first 3 episodes. They were all right, but then all of a sudden we saw episode 4, and we were like, wow, maybe they are gonna put it all back together correctly, and everything's gonna be great. Just make every episode like episode 4. But of course, we see 5 is not nearly as strong, and we're back to the same kind of and you know, you were pointing out. I haven't been looking at the people behind the right. I haven't been looking at writers. I don't know writers' names. I don't directors' names. I'm not looking at cinematographers.
I don't know any of their names.
We're not going into major stuff. We're just basing it based off our experience of reading the books and then coming in and trying to make sense of what they're depicting on the screen here, basically.
Right.
Uh,
And actually, by the middle of season 2, we'd pretty much given up any hope that we could ever relate it to the tapestry that Jordan wove. That they were neither of us, if I can speak for you at all, I can certainly speak for myself in this. I was convinced that they were making a very inferior ter, Persian rug out of Wheel of Time when I had seen one that I could have sworn Scheherazade herself wove when
well,
I read it
yeah.
from Jordan. So the story they were weaving was, and the thing that I've been thinking about, and I think the first 3 episodes of this year really hammered that point home for me, was that what Rafe and his gaggle of gigglers have done is simplify and flatten the story. People's motivations are thin at best. People
Yeah.
are doing things for emotional reasons when they had emotional, political, strategic, tactical, a matter of history, friends were involved. The reasons that Jordan had for anybody doing anything was a complex of stuff that it was just like it was like a web that if you pulled one thing, you were going to pull threads everywhere. And whereas these guys have said, oh, we'll just have it be, but Marguez is worried about Elaine.